We're really delighted to have Director Cowin here, and are looking forward to his introductory remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. I want to clarify. I agreed I would take a couple of really polite questions that are the softball variety, so we'll get to that soon. Anyway, thanks for inviting me here today. I really do appreciate the partnership we've had with Stanford, particularly the work that they're doing on groundwater data, groundwater research. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it today. I think groundwater has always been surrounded by a bit of mysticism, from the old water witching to California's system of water rights that irrationally distinguishes between surface and groundwater. Tradition and legacy have too often trumped good science and responsible management of groundwater. Understanding groundwater such that we can adequately manage and protect the resource for the future is a laudable ambition. But with that said, I'm going to start with what may be a bit of a provocative message today. There's no doubt, and no one's going to argue, that we need more and better data about groundwater in California. And there's no doubt that a better understanding of this resource is valuable. But what I hope to impress upon you all today is that technical information is not our biggest challenge. It's not our highest need. The most difficult and important challenge before us now is human and organizational. Simply put, how do we foster the creation of durable, resilient, local institutions that can enforce groundwater pumping and recharge at sustainable levels? That's the prime question before us today. I suspect that most of you know the ins and outs of SGMA probably pretty well, or you wouldn't be here today, but I cannot overstate the importance of this act. At this moment, I believe that SGMA and climate change are probably the two most powerful forces connecting all of California's water resources. We've unleashed a set of imperatives and demands that will remake water management in the state. So please don't take for granted the historic nature of this act. It took 100 years of California regulated surface water supplies for the political climate to reach the point where a majority of lawmakers were willing to regulate groundwater. The California Water Code changed overnight on September 16, 2014. That's when the governor signed the three bills that together are known as the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. I'm glad we've adopted SGMA in this crowd so I can stick to the shortcut. But it's going to take time for Californians to shift from the mentality of pump whatever you want to pump what is permitted under a sustainable plan. Create the institutions that will craft and enforce those sustainable plans. This is the kind of experience you get from, I think it's 37 years at the Department of Water Resources. But in California, our water policies, laws, and regulations, our dams, our aqueducts, our pumps, they reflect 200 years of evolving societal values. As much as many of us would like to not redesign California's water infrastructure from the ground up, and any effort to overhaul the laws that direct management of groundwater often push interest into the corners right in the fight. It's that chaotic mix of laws, statutes, and traditions that guide water management in California. And any effort to fix something is usually perceived as happening at somebody else's expense. Overcoming that is the real challenge that we face with SGMA. And I believe we will make historic progress, but only if we successfully implement the legislation. Let's not lose sight of the fact that SGMA will reshape California agriculture, pushing farmers to retire land, shift crops, and in some cases, simply go out of business. Some people outside of the effort to implement SGMA spend a lot of time second-guessing nuances in the law and complaining that it will take too long to implement. And frankly, I admit I'm a bit oversensitive to this armchair quarterbacking. I would love to think we could implement the law faster, or at least not have to take it on in the midst of a historic drought that faces tensions to the maximum. But we should all appreciate the nature of this Herculean task before us. Let's not forget how powerful SGMA is either. This isn't well understood by most Californians, but for the most part, water is managed by local water districts, irrigation districts, water service companies around California at the local level. And there are several hundred water districts in the state handling various aspects of water delivery, from storage to sanitation to you name it. It's easy for the managers of those agencies to act unilaterally and miss opportunities to work together. We at DWR strive to hold a broader perspective. And for the last two decades, under Director Snow's leadership in the back of the room, my department has embraced an integrated water management approach that seeks to encourage local water districts to collaborate for better results and better efficiency. We've invested statewide voter-approved bond funding projects that force local governments to work and plan together across watersheds. And with bond dollars, we back projects that provide multiple benefits, such as managing groundwater, managing floodwater, saving on local treatment costs, and enhancing wildlife habitat. Just in the last 4 years, we've awarded nearly $600 million in those bond funds. That alone has leveraged about $2.1 billion in local funds towards a broader investment in 450 projects. And when we add up the demand reduction and supply enhancement of those projects, it adds up to about 2 million acre-feet of water per year. And that's substantial in the California water picture. Integrated regional water management has been our primary tool for driving this sort of collaborative approach to water management and sustainability, and it's been successful. But that success has been limited because the approach is voluntary, and it's driven by incentive only. SGMA will bring those efforts to an entirely new level in my estimation. SGMA has real teeth. If local water agencies fail to bring basins into sustainable levels of pumping and recharge, the state will intervene, and frankly could end up deciding which land limiters get to pump and how much. I'm very happy to report that on schedule, my department has adopted regulations to implement SGMA, and the department is also working on studies due this year that will assess the water available for replenishment in groundwater basins around the state, and also describe best management practices for local agencies. And this is an extremely challenging task, I have to say, given all the uncontrollable variables, such as the effects of climate change, ecosystem needs, that got to be considered in a baseline for water available for replenishment. And on top of that, consider the variability in investment options and infrastructure and management practices that could lead to different outcomes as far as water available for replenishment. I hope that in future iterations of this work, which I know will be necessary, we can garner more cooperative research from institutions like Stanford. At the same time, DWR is carrying out its work across the Central Valley, Central Coast, and other places with a history of overpumping. Farmers, citizens, and officials from cities, counties, and water districts are coming together, trying to figure out how to organize themselves into groundwater sustainability agencies. More than 100 GSAs are in various stages of formation now, and I can't stress upon you enough how difficult a task they have before them, especially in regions where cities, counties, and water districts don't have a history of working together and have not built any modicum of trust among themselves. About 60% of the notices that my department has received about GSA formation have overlap in one or more basins, and a GSA cannot take effect until the overlap issues are resolved. And that's just one example of the complexity that's unfolding. I know that some agencies will simply struggle with the paperwork it takes to comply with the state laws and the formation of the GSAs. We'll need lots of lawyers, negotiate draft MOUs and JPAs, for example. But local agencies are motivated, as you would not believe, to complete this work, and that motivation is simple. If they don't figure out how to govern themselves at the local level, the state is poised to step in and do it for them. And given California's history, that threat looms large. My department is poised to try and help make local government work. In this important foundational stage of implementation, we're offering local governments facilitation services, grants, technical support. In March, we awarded $6.7 million in grants to 21 counties with high and medium priority groundwater basins, and some of which with critical overdraft. And we hope that funding will be used to address long-term planning goals, gain a better understanding of basins, and start the development of the groundwater sustainability plans. We've also secured additional funding to help provide facilitation services to local agencies seeking to form GSAs, and more than $1 million in funding support has been allocated, and we continue to accept new applications. We're also trying to help locals understand the data sets that exist, the components of water budgets, well standards, our groundwater elevation mapping program, and need for conservation. We also have regional liaisons ready to consult with local leaders throughout implementation of SIG. And I recently learned of an effort underway, and I believe, if I've got this right, it's been sponsored by the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, the Self-Help Enterprises, and the Environmental Defense Fund, called the 2016 Rural Water Boards Leadership Institute. This program is set up to offer training to representatives and prospective representatives of rural and disadvantaged communities to improve their capacity to represent those types of interests in local water governance, including SGMA implementation. And I just want to applaud this effort. I think this sort of capacity building is going to be absolutely essential if we're going to get SGMA, get it done right. There's not much time to get this complicated job of local governance done. The new GSAs have to be formed by June of 2017, and those agencies have until January of 2020 to adopt plans that will bring the basins into balanced levels of pumping and recharge. Getting plans in place is going to be difficult. There will not be enough, as difficult as forming the GSAs is, that's not going to be enough to bring sustainability to our groundwater basins. SGMA sets standards, but it also provides a great deal of flexibility to meet them. We'll need significant leadership from local agencies and regional agencies to find locally appropriate solutions. We'll also need strong governance and strategic planning, neither of which comes into any organization, let alone a newly formed organization. That's why I think our highest need now is not technical, but human and organizational. A huge effort is underway to bring into balance for the first time in California's histories the aquifers that have repeatedly rescued us from dry seasons and drought. And if we succeed, we will abate the subsidence, infrastructure damage, dry wells, trickle streams that come along with mining groundwater. It's the stated mission of the Stanford Water in the West program to bridge the gap between research and practice, to pursue the sustainable water management across the West, and I think that's a very worthy goal. Stanford, you're doing great research, DWR and the Water Board, and hundreds of local agencies around the state who are trying to do the practice. So let's see if we can do some bridging today. Thank you very much.
Yep. So Mark, you didn't tell me whether you like to play slow pitch or fast pitch softball.
Just go with the place.
Oh, fine. So this is a broad question, but a good one. DWR does not have a history of acting as a regulatory agency, but SGMA implementation is taking the department in that direction in a very big way. And could you comment on how big of adjustment this has been for you and your staff to now be in the position of being a regulator?
Well, we're a soft regulator if we're a regulator in this legislation. The State Water Resources Control Board has the ultimate backstop responsibility. We essentially play gatekeeper to that backstop. So as agencies submit their plans, we'll have the job of deciding which cases are so egregious that they need to be directed to the backstop. But we're the first line of defense for local agencies, I'd say, rather than the ultimate regulator in this case. So it is still an adjustment. We definitely have more oomph behind our efforts on this one compared to a lot of the more voluntary work, the grant type of work that we do. But so far, so good.
One last question. There's just a huge amount of work for localities to do to get to the point where all the GSAs are formed by next summer, June 30th. Do you anticipate that there may be places in California where there are basins that are not covered by GSAs that are operative by that point in time? And what does DWR have a plan for dealing with that possibility?
Well, I don't want to be naysayer at this point, and obviously we're going to do everything we can to have everybody comply with legislation as needed. And it's going to take a lot of more effort on the local level than it does from DWR to make that work. So to the extent that we can provide resources to help make it happen, we will. But I want to be clear again for those that don't think we're moving fast enough on Sigma or the timelines aren't appropriate, that this is just going to be an amazingly difficult task in creating the local governments that actually can work and implement plans and enforce them. And the enforcement part is the new part that will be so difficult. So I urge patience. I've often said in talking about Sigma that we need to grade on a curve for the first few times around. We need enough local groundwater sustainability agencies to do an adequate job that we can keep momentum moving forward and develop the best management practices, and hopefully we can make continual improvement towards our ultimate goals. But make no mistake, we're not going to have perfection right out of the box in this one.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your thoughts. And thank you for all your help, Director Cowin. Thank you. Really appreciate it.